Hi, happy Monday, and welcome to all the occupiers of White City Place. I hope you have had a good weekend and are ready for another week. And yeah, things are starting to lift a little bit out there, so that's good to sense a little bit more life happening around us. So I hope you're all well and finding some uh, relief or release from these mindful sessions and are able to bring them into your life, maybe on a regular basis. Even though we just meet once a week, I hope that some of the ideas or tools that we learn in these practices you can take with you. Maybe when you wake up in the morning or whenever the best time for you to meditate is. So, if you're new to me, you might need to know that I just talk a little bit at the beginning of each session, usually around a theme that's either relevant at the time, um, whether it's dealing with a pandemic, for example, which is obviously right now, or it's something that I've come across myself, or a lesson that keeps coming up, or when I get questions from other students that I teach. Um, yeah, it just kind of brings up another theme of meditation. And there's so many themes around it because really it's about living life. So there's always going to be various ideas floating around about meditation. So I share those for a bit and then we do a meditation together which is guided by me. And then what I will do at the end is leave you there, um, not stranded so much, but just so that you can stay with the meditation for as long as it feels good for you. That's the main thing. You becoming the captain of your own ship, you deciding when uh, the time to leave your meditation. And really, that just gives you a little bit of empowerment as to I am in control here. I can meditate on my own. That's always my aim. It's actually to teach people to meditate without me. Because there is nothing that feels better regards meditation than you doing your own practice. And it's great to share tips around the practice, but it's really, really good for you to find ways of what works for you and then owning that and then making that your practice. Because we're all unique and we've all got different things that work for different people. So that's something I wanted to talk about. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is, which is one of the key ideas around, I believe anyway, learning to meditate, and that is that finding balance, I believe, is the mastery of life, living life to its best and fullest. Balance. If you think about life, the earth, you, events, nature, everything has two sides. Everything has um, an ebb and a flow like the tide. So imagine the whole of the earth as one big beating heart, and everything else that feeds off the earth, including you and I, nature, um, many, many things, many opposites. So, we breathe in, we breathe out. We have hot, we have cold. We have yes, we have no. We have yin, we have yang. We have open, we have shut. We have hard, we have soft. We have ease, we have rigidity. We have joy, we have sorrow. We have angst, we have calmness. We have so many opposites. But the beating heart, your heart, is constantly beating. So it's a ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. And the reason I bring that up is because that's the center of who you are, really. It's what keeps you alive. It's what keeps everything going. But your heart is also responsible or plays a very big part anyway in your relax response. Your heart um, controls or helps to control the vagus nerve, which travels from your head all the way to your gut, and stopping at all the relative organs on the way. And those organs on the way are the ones that relate to our parasympathetic nervous system, our relaxed response. And there's a little thing that we'll do today, actually, which is coherent breath. I think some people call it heart coherence because the heart enjoys this level of breathing, and it's breathing in for 5 seconds and breathing out for 5 seconds. And it's this constant keeping everything in balance. Again, there's the balance. So you've got your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, and your relaxed response, which is your parasympathetic nervous system. Those two go hand in hand, and a perfect um, balance is these two being balanced. So your relaxed response and your fight and flight being in tandem with each other. And your in breath is your energetic breath. And that could be called your sympathetic nervous system breath, if you like. And your out breath is a relaxed response. That's your parasympathetic nervous system breath. So if you have the 5 in and the 5 out, you're keeping both sides evenly balanced because your breath follows your mind and your mind follows your breath. So if you were breathing really, really, really quickly, then you might be having a little bit of a panic or a little stress response to something. And of course, you're not going to be having a calm mind if that's happening. The two just don't go together. Your mind will be going a little bit crazy if your breath's going a bit crazy. The two work in tandem with each other. The opposite is also true. If you have a calm and relaxed mind, the likelihood is that your breathing will be calm and relaxed. If you have a calm and relaxed breath, the likelihood is your mind is calm and relaxed, just like it is when you're falling asleep. So everything has balance, and this ties in with this mastery of life, ties in with a story about the Dalai Lama, and it's a real situation. That's not a made up story or a fable. Basically, it was a scientist who wanted to help bring meditation into the Western world, and it was just his recollection of this event. But the Dalai Lama was sitting at an event, some kind of conference, and he had just received news that one of the Tibetan monks hadn't made it in his journey towards exile, living in exile as the Dalai Lama does. You know, so many monks, practicing monks, left Tibet to go and live in exile so they could keep up their Tibetan traditions and not be taken over by China. Chinese rule. And so there are very many stories of poor monks that haven't made it. It's a very long way across the Himalayas and into India, where the Dalai Lama is living in exile. So he had heard about another Tibetan monk not making it and dying on the way. And he was visibly moved. He was really, really upset. He had tears in his eyes. About 10 minutes later in the conference, one of the people in the audience said something that made the Dalai Lama laugh. He has a great sense of humor, made him laugh, and he was laughing out loud. These two extreme events, if you like, one really laughing out loud at something because it's so funny, and the opposite of feeling absolute sadness and heavy emotion for one of his monks not making it. To go through those two emotions within 10 minutes of time, we as human beings, he's a human being too, we as regular people walking around might find that a little bit challenging because we believe that we have to hang on to these emotions, particularly if we have a sad emotion, um, and then we feel happy 10 minutes later. We would feel a bit like, oh, hang on, I haven't let go of the sad emotion yet. That's a bit odd. How could I possibly be happy? And this brings us to the idea of fleeting moments. And it's a really good lesson from the Dalai Lama in that respect, in terms of letting things go. And how do we do that? How do we live our life with fleeting moments? And the idea is that when everything's in balance, if you imagine that as a straight line, and then if something really, really happy happens, you rise right up here away from the straight line, and then you come back down, and then maybe something sad happens, you go back down, even further down below that line, and then you come back. Now, obviously, the higher you go, the more, or the lower you go, the more distance it is between you and this kind of bit in the middle. And I'm not suggesting anybody lives in the middle by any stretch of the imagination. It's really good to kind of have a nice balance of up and down, up and down. So you kind of keep a very regular line, maybe it's a wiggly line along this idea of balance. And the way that we do that is by not becoming consumed by those emotions. So by all means, feel them, but then you let them go. So if you feel a real high, great, enjoy that, go with it. But when the high is over and you're trying to cling on to it because it's going to, that's going to make me feel better for the rest of the day, it's the clinging that becomes detrimental to our balance. We don't want to cling either to the really great stuff or to the bad stuff. We want to be able to live in the present moment. So when we cling, we're not being present. When we're present, it's our most content place to be. So I'm shooting a lot of information at you right now. But this is just this idea of living in balance. And I wanted to bring this up today also because sometimes when we meditate and we get into that really nice place and we feel really good and we come out of it, we expect life to be just as rosy as it was in our meditation. and that's great when things go well and we come out of our meditation and we're like walking through the park or through life and kind of go, oh, I feel so good now, I feel great. That's all good until something bad happens. And then we're like, oh, no, this, whatever it is, maybe it's an argument with somebody, and you suddenly go, oh, I've just been knocked off my little pedestal. I felt really good a minute ago. Now you've made me feel like this, or that situation made me feel like this. That's when we need to remember that everything is a fleeting moment. To ruminate over what just happened, let it go back to that really nice sense of equilibrium. Equilibrium being a lovely balance between good and bad. Just don't cling to those experiences. Let them go. Even if it's great moments, one after the other, but they're all different, great, that's wonderful, go for that. But don't hang on to the past. And don't also hang on or cling to the idea of the future, because you will miss all the important, juicy stuff of the present moment. And that's just being here and being happy with that. And then you're in a good place to allow whatever happens next, because you go with each present moment as it happens. Okay, thank you for bearing with that lesson. If you're still here. So yeah, let's begin our our little session for today. So, yeah, just getting nice and comfy, really, to start with. Don't be too hard on yourself if you just want to kind of slump in your chair. Um, if you want to know the ideal way to sit, then really, even if you're on a chair or on the floor, whichever it is, it's quite good to look down and see if your hips are above your knees, as opposed to having your knees above your hips. Or if you're on a very low chair, for example, your knees will be quite high, just so that then you can get a kind of nice straightish spine, but you can also sink into that straightish spine. I don't want you to kind of be feeling like you've got to sit up erect the whole time. That just uses energy that you don't need to use at all. The other thing is, I want you to be able to have a soft belly. When we restrict the belly breath, we restrict the softness of the practice. So let go of that belly. We're so used to holding in the belly, aren't we? We're always kind of holding on to that, trying to make ourselves look slimmer. So we're going to get used to that. Let the belly go, especially meditation. Just let it go, and let yourself be a bit of a Buddha belly, at least for the practice. All right, so let's just close the eyes and allow yourself just to feel how you're sitting. Notice the weight on the seat, whether it's the floor, a chair, sofa. Just notice your weight there. Notice if you feel lopsided or even. You don't have to adjust yourself, by the way. If you're comfortable, but yes, you're lopsided as well, don't worry about it. Be comfortable. If you're sitting cross-legged, notice if there is any tension in your knees, around your kneecaps. You can let that go. And however you're sitting, take your awareness to the heels of your feet. So if you're sitting cross-legged, notice their contact with either the sock you might be wearing or against your thighs if you're sitting cross-legged, or if you're barefoot, the air around the foot. If you're sitting on a chair, noticing the contact with the floor on the heels. The idea is really just to bring your awareness there. It doesn't matter how you're sitting. Now then take your awareness to the ankles, both ankles, and just see if by bringing your awareness there you can maybe soften around the bone. All those little ligaments, tiny ligaments and tendons around that joint. Just imagining them, if you like, softening. And then see if you can take your awareness to your left big toe and just see if you can feel that without moving it. See if you can get a sense of it in isolation to your other toes. And then do the same with your right big toe. And now take your awareness to the instep of your right foot. So that place in the middle between the ball of the foot and the heel of the foot on your right foot. So you might sense a bit of an arch, or you might be flat footed, but really getting a sense of right in the middle. And imagine somebody has taken their thumb, or your thumb even, to that fleshy part right in the middle of your right foot. So you know what that feels like, that indentation, that impression that it would leave after the event when someone takes their thumb away. You can still get a sense of that. Now, whether your legs are crossed or you're sitting on a chair, your next breath, I want you to imagine it's coming through that center part of your foot, that indentation, and it's traveling up the front of your leg, up to the knee, going over the corner of the knee, over that bend, up along the top of the thigh, and into the socket of the hip. Just pausing here for a moment. Now, your next out breath, I want you to take it inside the leg. So you're breathing out and traveling down the inside of the thigh, softening as you go, into the kneecap, softening as you go, down through the center of your calf muscle, down into the center of your ankle, and then out through the center of your foot. Now, that might have been a little bit stipulated with your breath because it might have taken a longer time than you wished. So, in your own time, doing that again. So, you're going to breathe into the center of the foot, travel all the way up the outside of the leg, over the knee, right up into the hip. And then when you breathe out, exhaling through the center of the leg, following it all the way down through the leg and out through the center of that right foot. So just taking a couple of those in your own time. And then when you finish that last one, no rush, but when you do, just pausing for a moment. And then take your mind's eye to your sacrum. So, right at the bottom of your spine, that flat piece of bone that really divides your pelvis in half, your right and your left. Sitting with your awareness there, just get a sense of both of your legs and notice if, because you had activity on the right, if the left leg feels different to the right. There might be a sense of emptiness, numbness, even a sense of lack of attention, maybe, or they might feel exactly the same. So we're going to even things up, but this time take your awareness to the calf muscle on your left leg. Just see if you can soften it. It's quite a heavy muscle, so really imagine it getting softer, just letting go. And then bringing your awareness to the opposing shin bone on your left leg. So that's a long, straight bone, the skin stretching over it, very different to the hanging calf at the back of the leg. And then going right inside the left knee. Getting a sense of what it's like inside that knee. Is it warm? Does it feel soft inside, or are there some tight areas? And then moving up into the hip socket. Very, very overused joint, the hip. So again, see if you can soften there. And then take a nice in breath. And on your out breath, just sweep all the way down the leg, right to the bottom, right to the toes at the bottom. And then getting a sense of that space between the ball of the foot and the heel on the left side, as if somebody's had their thumb against it, and just feeling that indentation. And when you are ready, your next inhale will travel up through the center this time of the leg, all the way up to the hip socket, and your out breath just brushing over the outside of the leg. So doing just a few of these in your own time. And after your next one, don't rush it, just always honor your own breath, your own pace of breath. So after your last one, again, returning to the sacrum, that place in the middle. And now seeing if both sides feel a little bit more even. And now from the sacrum, the bottom of your spine, I want you to travel up with your next in breath, traveling up the spine all the way right up to the skull and through the skull to the crown of your head. Once you get to the crown of the head, just stopping there, just breathing out, just staying at the top of your head. Now imagine somebody has been tapping the crown of your head. And if they took their hands away, you would be aware of that space, that feeling, just in the same way as you would with your feet. Somebody putting their thumb on your foot. So, just for a moment, have your awareness on the crown of your head, and then switch right down to the impression on the soles of your feet. Go back up to the crown of your head, feeling that on its own. And then all the way back down again to the soles of your feet. And now again, return to the sacrum. So not only does your sacrum stay in the middle of your right and your left, but it's also the middle of your north and your south. So it's a center place. Now let that belly go. Quite often with the sacrum, we kind of just slightly sit up straighter, and then we kind of hold in our stomach. So again, let your belly go. Soften it here if it's not already. Now getting a really nice sense of the breath coming in through your nose, traveling into your lung space and expanding the rib cage. And then on the out breath, coming back the same way, back out through the nose. So just see this little path in your mind's eye. If you can't breathe through your nose, breathe through your mouth, obviously. But it's the same idea. You're creating this little kind of air tunnel, and you're noticing the breath coming in, flowing down the throat, expanding the lungs, which then puts pressure on the diaphragm, which then puts a little bit of pressure on the stomach, and that is why your belly expands. A nice full breath, and then exhale, traveling out this in reverse. And you can give that a little bit of a visual if you like. I quite often give it a bit of a curve just because my nose is ahead of my throat. So I kind of imagine the air coming in there, then kind of going back a little bit to the throat, and then my chest being in line probably with the tip of my nose. So I kind of imagine that as a little bit of a curve coming in and on the out breath going the other way. Now, with this, I'd like you to add some counting. And this is where we bring in this heart coherence. So I'm going to lead you through the first couple, and then I want you to continue on your own for a while. So, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be breathing in for 5, and we're going to be following that curve or the shape, whatever it is that you experienced, bringing in the breath into the body and watching it leave. So, you're going to be breathing in for 5 and then breathing out for 5. But first of all, I'm going to count to 3. And when I count to 3, let go of all of your breath. Just let all of it go. And then we'll count together for a first couple, and then I'll let you go to continue on your own. And then I'll bring you back out of that again. I'll just let you do it for a couple of minutes. All right, so counting to 3. Let go of all of your breath. Push all of it out. Now, following in through the nose, breathing in. 2, 3, 4, 5. And out. 2, 3, 4, 5. And in. 2, 3, 4, 5. And out. 2, 3, 4, 5. And in. 2, 3, 4, 5. And out. 2, 3, 4, 5. And in. Keep going. So remember, you're trying to keep the count so that when you get to the top of the in breath, you're at your full expansion. And on the out breath, the end of the 5, you've let go of all of it, and then you start again. It's just trying to get the breath ratio the same speed with the in and the out, keeping everything in balance. Now, they don't have to be massive breaths. You don't have to breathe and kind of fill yourself up. You can just be breathing very subtly. And then just finishing your next one. Don't rush it. Honor your breath. Wait until you get to the end of your out breath. And when you do, just come back to the sacrum again. So that center part, your compass, you're in between the east and west, the north and the south. Now, from the sacrum, I want you to imagine or feel or sense your breath going in all directions. So, from the sacrum being the centerpiece, as you breathe in, imagine energy filling your legs. So, it might travel down your legs, but at the same time, it might travel up your torso, filling your arms, maybe. And then on the out breath, everything comes back to center. So, really, the breath is going outwards from the sacrum. So, that could be traveling down your legs, up the torso, and then out, coming back to center. So, just experimenting with that for a couple of breaths in and out. Actually, not a couple of breaths, a couple of minutes. I'll give you a couple of minutes to play with that idea. So, breathing in, expanding away from the sacrum, and on the exhale, coming back in. You can imagine, if you like, that you're a little bit star shaped, if that helps. Go out in all directions with that in breath. And again, don't be tempted to force the breath, to make it a big breath out. Just breathing normally is great. You don't even need to count for 5 anymore if you don't want to. It's really more a sense of the breath expanding and coming back. Okay, and then letting go of your last one of that little exercise. Again, no rush. When you finished your out breath, I'd love you to take your eyes, your gaze to the back of your eyelids now. So you're keeping your eyes closed all this time, but there is a literal visual focus, i.e., it's not imagined, looking at the back of your eyelids. So, depending on the light in your room, which could change as well, be aware of that. Um, Whatever you can see behind the eyelids, trying to look at that, trying to see it, noticing if it's a color, what color it is. Does it have one color, or is there another color trying to get in? Is there a difference in the color, as in, are there other shades of the color? Does it have any pattern? So, whatever you can see through your eyelids, and again, depending on the light, just staying with that. Now, if a thought comes in, you can just notice, but try not to get consumed. So that thought would be a fleeting moment if you don't get consumed. So you notice the thought, and you go, great, I'm noticing now. I can go back to what I can see behind the eyelids. And you're trying to expand this space between the eyelids, between the thoughts rather, by looking at the back of your eyelids. So you're trying to hold that focus for as long as you can between now and the next thought. And it's the noticing of the thought that becomes the mindfulness practice. It's that little aha moment. Okay, here I go again. I'm going to come back. And also noticing, did I get consumed by the thought? You will notice when you have thoughts that generally, unless you're just reciting something in your head, generally a thought about a discussion or an argument or whether you need to get something from the shops is generally a visual. So notice when you see the thought, when you see the picture of the thought, notice if you are being consumed entirely, that you lose the color behind your eyelids, or if the thought's kind of there in the background, but the color of the eyelids is winning. So be playful with this idea. And then try and give more focus back to the color behind your eyelids. Your brain is designed to think. It gets bored easily. That is why and when we get these distracting thoughts in meditation, and that is why it's a practice. The practice is staying with the chosen focus. And right now, it's the one behind your eyelids. And when you get a thought coming in, it's, oh, interesting. There you go. There's that thought again. I wonder why that's coming up. Let it go. Can I let it go? Can it be a fleeting moment? When you're looking at the back of the eyelids, you are fully present in the here and now. And even if those little snatches of present moment are short lived, that's okay. You're just training your mind to recognize them and relax into them. And the more you practice, the easier it gets to tame the mind. So just staying with that idea, that peaceful place. The longer those little spaces get between the thoughts, the more peaceful it becomes. So enjoy that peace. Enjoy that place. If you're in a good place, that's great. Be aware of your body though. Make sure you're not trying too hard that you constrict some muscles that you don't necessarily need to constrict. See if you can just relax into the quiet places without too much effort. Relax your body, softening where you can, just residing in the spaces between. And this is where I will leave you to your unique space and check in with you this time next week. Thank you so much